In 1941, Germany began production of what would become one of the Second World War's best medium anti-tank guns, the Pak-40. Pak is an abbreviation of Panzerabwehrkanon, or anti-tank gun. When it was first introduced, it was one of the deadliest weapons on the battlefield for a tank commander. Even by the war's end, it was still regarded as a powerful weapon, struggling only with the enemy's heaviest tanks, such as the IS-2 or Pershing. More than 23,000 were produced, and it proved to be an invaluable weapon, especially against the Soviet T-34 and KV-1 tanks early in the Barbarossa campaign. When other anti-tank guns in service with the Wehrmacht, such as the 5cm Pak-38, just didn't have the stopping power to reliably deal with the T-34 and KV-1, especially longer ranges, the Pak-40 proved more than adequate. The KwK-40, the vehicle-mounted version of the Pak-40, had a number of different designations, depending on the vehicle it was mounted on and the date of introduction, but the weapon remained virtually the same, so I'll be referring to all variants as the KwK-40 for ease of communication. German High Command realised that they needed to upgun their tanks to deal with the threat posed by the T-34 and KV-1. They attempted to upgun the Panzer III to deal with this threat, with the weapon known as the KwK-39 L60, which was based on the Pak-38 towed anti-tank gun. The Panzer IV was going to use this same gun, but the Germans quickly realised after combat experience that this still wasn't enough to effectively counter well-armoured Russian tanks. So, in early 1942, tests were performed with a modified Pak-40 mounted in the Panzer IV. For reasons of practicality, the barrel was shortened slightly when the cannon was mounted inside the Panzer. The tests were successful, and the first variant of the Panzer IV to be mounted with the KwK-40, the Ausführung F2, entered production in mid-1942. It was virtually identical to the original Ausführung F, aside from the new gun. A new muzzle brake was designed, reducing recoil by up to 50%. The KwK-40 would go through 5 different muzzle brakes during the war. Eventually, the turret was adjusted to accommodate a longer barrel, 48 calibers in length, as opposed to the original 43 calibers, slightly improving muzzle velocity and penetration. The new L48 was fitted to the late versions of the Ausführung G, which was essentially an up-armoured Ausführung F2 with a few extra modifications, and the definitive Panzer IV variant, the Ausführung H, in mid-1943. Simultaneously with the Panzer IV F2, the Stück 3 was being fitted with a variant of the Pak-40 in early 42, beginning with the Ausführung F, making it a deadly tank killer. Stück 3s mounted with the Pak-40 would go on to claim thousands of enemy tank kills. As with the Panzer IV, the Stück 3 began with the L43, but would eventually be fitted with the longer L48. Early variants of Guderian's Duck, the Jagdpanzer IV, were fitted with the KwK-40. It was planned to arm them with a variant of the Panther's KwK-42 L70, but there was a shortage of this weapon, so in the meantime the L48 was used. The Jagdpanzer 38T Hetzer also mounts an L48. As in reality, the KwK-40 is a dangerous foe to any tank it faces, but later versions of the Panzer IV will occasionally encounter the KV-85 and IS-1, which will prove challenging to penetrate, especially at longer ranges. The IS-1's 120mm thick hull will be an area that should be avoided. The KV-1 Model 1941, with additional armour plating, will also be a potential problem, as will the KV-1E with its spaced armour. Both have 100mm of frontal armour with some sloping. Another tough nut to crack is the Su-85M. Its front armour is 75mm thick, sloped at 40 degrees, creating a relative thickness of around 117mm. The tanks mentioned probably require APCR to penetrate with any reliability at combat ranges, at least when engaging frontally. Against other tanks, including the early KV-1 and all T-34 variants, the KwK-40 will penetrate with ease. In fact, at close ranges, there is a chance to over-penetrate lightly armoured opponents, and the shell can pass through the tank without causing serious damage. With a reload of just over 7.5 seconds, the KwK-40 has a rate of fire similar to the T-34's weaker F-34 and N-11 guns, and faster than the D5T arming the T-34-85 and Su-85. Muzzle velocity is higher than comparable Russian guns. Shell drop is fairly minimal at ranges up to 500 meters, and the long barrel and higher muzzle velocity mean the KwK-40 is accurate at virtually all ranges. The 75mm diameter is standard for many tank guns, and offers decent internal damage with AP shells. The KwK-40 and its variants are dependable, powerful anti-tank weapons that Russian tank drivers should fear. It has good penetration, stopping power and accuracy, and is an all-around effective weapon, although it will struggle to deal with the most heavily armoured Russian tanks it will face. Rating: effective.